My dear friends, let's take some tzedakah, put it in the pushka, tefillah, tzedakah, and Torah. All of this will bring us to what God is telling us in the parsha of this week, Va'era. God says, I'm revealing myself to you. I'm taking you out of exile. The process is going to be, I'm going to give the Egyptians 10 plagues. Now we understand that the 10 plagues was not just to destroy Egypt, because God could have done this in a moment. There is 10 steps of systematically destroying Egypt and the Egyptian culture, at the same time teaching us, teaching Bnei Israel, the Jewish people, the purpose of leaving Egypt and going where? Because giving freedom without structure creates anarchy, creates chaos. So, and that's, we've seen this with different movements that people were liberated, quote unquote, from slavery, but haven't given the proper tools to deal with that freedom, they didn't know what to do with it. So God is systematically teaching us through the 10 plagues of what is expected from us, how we need to appreciate that newfound freedom. Particular as it says, we should always see ourselves as we're coming out of Egypt. Egypt, Mitzrayim, means Meitzar, narrowness. Also the word tsar, tzara, suffering. So we always have to come out from our own narrowness, from our own self-imposed limitations, our own self-imposed boundaries and exile, which will take us out of all our problems. So the first 2 plagues, let's analyze today. Blood and frogs. God slew the Nile and turned the water into blood. Simple meaning is, as Rashi says, the Nile was one of the idols of Egypt, their source of water, so God wanted to show them their idols are powerless. And there's no point worshipping them. Worship God. But it teaches us a deeper lesson. What blood is our vitality. The nefesh habasa badami. It's a living thing. And blood is warm. Water, on the other hand, is cold and wet. Coolness in general is associated with death. If a living body becomes cold for too long, can't be alive. So water is the exact opposite of blood. Blood represents excitement, passion. Water represents cool, calm, rationale. But water can also be frozen and stop moving altogether. And at that point, there's no life. We need the water, but we have to infuse it some passion. We have to transform it into blood. We have to allow our rationale, our coolness to be fired up, to be warmed up with a joy, with a passion. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. We have to serve God with life, vitality, enthusiasm, warmth and joy. And then the water is not a block of ice anymore. The water itself becomes alive. Frogs has a next step. Frogs also live in water. And frog is a kind of a critter which is cold, very cold, cold-blooded. Talmud tells us, based on the pasuk, that the frogs were all over, including they jumped into the ovens. What's the point? What is the Torah telling us here that it jumped into the ovens? What God is teaching us. That coldness. Just like the frogs were willing to sacrifice their lives. It's the opposite of their being. They can function only in cold atmospheres, in cold water. This is their nature. but for the service of God. They were ready to give their lives away and jump into the oven. We too, we have to understand that we have to go against our nature, go against our comfort zone, and be willing to jump into the fire and be fired up by the light and the warmth of godliness. Be willing to leave the coldness of exile and become part of the warmth and the beauty and the light and the fire of Mashiach. These are the first two steps. May this happen today.